Still a baby in the sport. He's still got learning to do, and I think fighting Eubank Jr, who would most be entering the ring bigger than it would last time.
Joe Gallagher didn't sugarcoat it. Running it back with Chris Eubank Jr isn't bravery, it's career suicide. Let's be brutally honest. The first fight was tailor-made for Conor Benn. Eubank Jr was drained, sluggish, operating at barely 70% of his potential after a brutal weight cut, and even then, with every disadvantage stacked against him, Eubank folded Benn when it counted most. Now fast forward to this rematch. No catchweight, no excuses, no diminished version of Junior stepping into the ring. This time,
Eubank Jr is what it is, and for Eubank Jr, he's in the driving seat. He should say, well, Joe, I'm moving up, but I'll make it, I say, 164 or 166 or whatever he wants to do. I mean, he's in the driving seat. I think the whole nation.
He's coming in bigger, stronger, sharper, and more dangerous, with revenge burning in his mind. Gallagher sees what's coming. A wrecking ball headed Benn's way. This isn't just a rematch, it's a reckoning. Conor Benn isn't levelling up, he's sprinting into the firing line without cover. And if that isn't enough...
Junior comes through that. Eubank Jr, Canelo, here we go.
That's what we want. We get through Conor Benn, and then we want Canelo.
Brilliant.
Rematch happens, expect one of the coldest, most calculated beatdowns of Chris Eubank Jr.'s career. One of the coldest, most ruthless performances of Chris Eubank Jr.'s career may be loading, and the boxing world...
From Eubank Jr, it could have been a bit of a cunning and crafty move on his behalf, because if he knew he was struggling to make the weight, and he knew there was going to be a rematch, and he'd have to go through all this again, and he can't pull out of it...
To ring alarm bells, here's a name that's now floating around for Eubank's next target, Canelo Alvarez. Let that sink in. Chris Eubank Jr isn't orbiting Benn like he's the pinnacle. He's eyeing global greatness. Benn, he's just the stepping stone. And let's kill the noise about that first fight. Critics say Eubank...
Fighter, I think if Chris has a fight with Conor, it ends up a good fight, but I think Conor's got even more of a chance next time round, because like I said, I think Chris was 1 or 2 fights away from being done. I thought his balance was gone a little bit watching the fight, but like I say, he won. He ended up winning the fight, and so... I can't understand that.
He did, and he still showed up, still fought, still won. That's called professionalism. That's the separation between seasoned contenders and rising hopefuls. Now the tables have turned. No more narrative manipulation, no more playing into Benn's terms. Junior's not just moving pieces on the board this time, he's flipping the whole damn table. Even Liam Smith, who's gone toe-to-toe with Eubank Jr, gets it. Sure, he's acknowledged Benn's courage, but respect doesn't win fights. Smith saw Eubank wobble in spots, but he also saw him adjust and win. That's what everyone keeps missing, even on an off night with his...
A really good fight. I think it was a lot closer than what it was. Commend Conor Benn immensely because he put on an amazing performance. Remember, he's a welterweight. Never really boxed at world-class level at 160 or around that. Chris has more experience on the world scene than Conor has, but Conor did himself proud.
Body drained and momentum working against him, Eubank Jr still got the job done. If Benn's camp is betting on decline, that's not strategy, it's desperation. And in this unforgiving sport, hope gets you hurt. Fast. The question fans need to ask isn't whether Conor Benn is brave, it's whether he's ready for what's coming. Because when that bell rings again, the glitz, the highlight reels, the motivational posts, they all vanish. The only thing that matters is who can go 12 rounds in a war.
Chris won it. To be honest, with the sheer effort that Conor put in, it should have been like a majority, maybe a couple of rounds. Do you know what I mean? I didn't have it so wide. But look, the right man.
Johnny Nelson can hype Benn's passion all he wants. He can talk fire, stare downs and body language. But all that bravado won't matter when Eubank starts controlling the range, setting the tempo and landing clean, surgical punches. Swagger doesn't absorb uppercuts. Pose and posture don't win exchanges in the pocket. Eubank Jr. is smarter now. He's not just stronger physically, he's evolved mentally. He's learned how to pace a fight, how to conserve energy, how to drown flashy fighters in deep waters where stamina, patience and IQ rule. Adjusted, adapted and dismantled him. And just when you think it can't get...
Because his legs weren't working.
Yeah.
He was throwing a lot of shots, but nothing had any real power or snap because he didn't have it in him. And so he couldn't force his size advantage.
More brutal, even Peter Fury reportedly voiced concern. That says it all. This isn't just a grudge match, it's a crossroads. If Conor Benn steps through those ropes thinking passion and pride can bridge the gap, he's in for a violent awakening. So don't just watch, join the debate. Is Conor Benn taking the ultimate risk, or is he gambling everything on hope? Because when that bell rings, we're about to find out who's real and who's about to get reminded of the levels in this game. Peter Fury, one of the most respected and level-headed minds in boxing, didn't flinch after the first fight.
Because if I don't do Eubank next, that ship sailed. So it has to be Eubank next. If it's not,
the right man won. That says everything. People can debate how close it was, talk about Conor Benn's flashes of aggression, or how brave he looked at times. But when it mattered, the W went to Chris Eubank Jr. And Fury, with all his fairness and experience, gave credit where it was due. Sure, he hinted that maybe the cards could have been tighter, but that's just Peter's measured approach. The truth is, Eubank landed the sharper punches, controlled the tempo, and fought with a poise Benn simply couldn't match. Now here's the scary part for Team Benn. That wasn't even the best version.
Was commend Conor Benn immensely because he put on an amazing performance. Remember, he's a welterweight, never really boxed at world-class level at 160 or around that. Chris has more experience on the world scene than Conor has, but Conor did himself proud. I think the right man won, and it was pride.
Of Chris Eubank Jr. That was a depleted, compromised version, drained from a brutal weight cut, running at maybe 60% of his full engine. And he still walked away with the win. So imagine what happens when that same Eubank shows up fresh, fully fueled, and hungry for revenge. If Peter Fury was calling it fair before, he'll be calling it a shutout next time. Adam Booth echoed the same concern. He described a version of Eubank in that first fight who lacked legs, pop and snap. He was missing that signature explosiveness. Yet even then,
I feel isn't at the peak of his powers. His skills pays the bills. What version of Canelo are you expecting? What version of Canelo are you expecting? I'm expecting the best version because if he brings
half a version of himself, Chris still had enough in the tank to beat Benn. That alone should be terrifying for Benn's camp. Because if that was Eubank at 60%, what happens when he's at 100? Fresh, focused, firing on all cylinders. Yes, people applaud Benn's courage, but courage doesn't win fights. Strategy does, experience does, ring IQ does. And Eubank Jr., even on an off night, still dictated the fight, controlled the pace, and landed the cleaner, more telling shots. If Benn's entire game plan hinges on Eubank guessing out the...
I believe Eubank was the winner, yeah. There's a couple of people saying about the other way, but no, I thought it was one of them fights where it was so close. And the scorecards probably don't, like, obviously, I had it by 3-4 rounds myself. And they probably don't...
Again, they are already preparing to lose. Because this time, Chris isn't coming to survive. He's coming to dominate. When Eubank steps into that ring with power in his legs, fast hands and sharp combinations, it won't just be competitive, it'll be clinical. He's done it once, and this time he'll do it cleaner, sharper, and with even more authority. Boots Ennis recently said it best. Conor's flashy, but Chris is built different. This fight isn't about viral moments or Instagram clips. It's about who handles the fire when the pressure's at its highest. Eubank's been through wars. He's still trying to prove he deserves to be in the conversation. And when they shared that ring, we saw what experience does to reckless energy. It turns chaos into missed punches. It slows down the storm. Chris made Ben look rushed, raw, and reckless. That kind of composure, you can't teach it. It comes with years in the trenches, and Chris has it in spades. People keep selling Conor as the future, but Chris Eubank Jr., he's still the present. And when this rematch happens, it won't just be a repeat, it'll be a refinement. Same outcome, but cleaner, more decisive. As Usyk once said about rematches, you can fix your mistakes, but you can't change who the better fighter is. Chris was better then, drained, and he'll be even better now at full strength. And let's not ignore the emotional undercurrent. This isn't just another fight for Chris, it's personal. The pain, the betrayal, the bad blood, it's real. This rematch isn't for the cameras. The grudge isn't a gimmick. It's fueling every training session, every interview, every stare down. Eubank doesn't want a close decision. He wants destruction. Surgical, absolute, final. There won't be fake hugs or staged respect when this one ends. If this rematch happens, expect one of the coldest, most calculated beatdowns of Chris Eubank Jr.'s career. One of the coldest, most ruthless performances of Chris Eubank Jr.'s career may be loading, and the boxing world feels it. When Boots Ennis was asked for a prediction, he didn't commit. His "I don't know what happens" might sound diplomatic, but it speaks volumes. The uncertainty still clings to Conor Benn, not just in the public eye, but deep within the boxing world. That shadow hasn't lifted. Meanwhile, Eubank Jr. has done everything right. He didn't whine about weight. He didn't cry foul or hide behind excuses. He took the fight, made the weight, stepped into the fire, and delivered. That kind of professionalism, that accountability, still stands in sharp contrast to everything surrounding Team Benn. Yes, Conor is a good fighter. No one's denying that. But in boxing, good doesn't beat prepared. Good doesn't erase suspicion. And good certainly doesn't undo what we all saw in that ring. The poise, the control, the grit of Eubank as he weathered the chaos and rose above it when the final bell rang. This rematch isn't just about who the better fighter is. It's about who the sport trusts. And right now, that edge belongs to Chris Eubank Jr. The fans may be forgiving, the media may love a redemption arc, but Eubank hasn't forgotten, and neither has boxing. This isn't just about rivalry anymore, it's about reputation, it's about principle. Here's the biggest difference between these two: accountability.